I tend to carry my whole life around with me in my backpack. I've tested and tried all sorts of different backpacks over the years. Camera bags and laptop messenger style bags, just like standard backpacks that are, you know, like, I don't have any around me, they're all over there, but just every kind of bag I've tried, and I've had lots of great bags, but I've never found the perfect bag, and who knows if that even really exists. That seems a bit, I don't know, extreme maybe. The idea is a bit romantic, perhaps. I'm gonna try to make a backpack is what I'm saying. I'm gonna try to make my perfect backpack.
How does this work?
Yeah, how am I gonna do that? Okay, well. First step, I need to draw. I gotta figure out what this thing is gonna look like. I start with some sketches to work out some of my ideas before moving on to making a paper version of the bag. I'm doing this to really understand the shapes and the forms that I'll be working with once we move to fabric. This is gonna make it easier to really understand the proportions, the placement of the features, and even how the final assembly should go. Alright, so I got to work cutting up this paper and taping it together, just like mishmashing it together really quickly, just to get a rough idea of what this bag's gonna look like. And before we take a look at that first iteration of the paper backpack, let's talk a little bit about what features my perfect backpack should have. First things first, side handles, bottom handles, top handles. I want handles on all sides. I want handles all around this thing, the more the merrier. Bottom, top, side. It needs to be able to hold water bottle, side access. It needs to have a laptop sleeve. I think it would be cool to be able to access the laptop sleeve from the side and from inside the pad. Gotta have sort of a roll top extension, roll top drawstring, I'll call it. It's gotta have a special, it's gotta have that top, it's essentially that flap on the top of the bag that flaps open, you know, allows you to go inside the bag. It's gotta have a brain. I like that. I like the brain. In the brain, it's gotta have a place to hold glasses. So glasses compartment, that's very important. Ah, right, a luggage pass-through. I like bags with luggage pass-throughs because they slide onto the sissy bar of my motorcycle super easily. Another thing that I wanna have on there is a front pocket, a front sort of elasticy front pocket. There needs to be lots of strap connectors and loops. These are a few of the must-haves. I'm sure as I'm going I will think of more things, but to start, this is everything we're trying to accomplish with this bag right here. Alright, so this paper version of the bag is pretty much done. Paper was kind of hard to work with, honestly. It's pretty fragile, and I was kind of having a hard time like getting it to do what I wanted to do. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a version of this out of tape. It's gonna be a little bit more sturdy because I'm gonna stick the two sticky sides together and then have like a solid piece of essentially fabric that's made out of tape. So let's go to the hardware store and get some tape. So I started the tape construction. I laid down layers of tape and made panels that fit the right size of my bag. I ended up deciding that I wanted the bag to be able to stand up on its own, so I needed to pull a frame from a backpack that I had lying around. This was going to give the backpack the structure that it needed, sort of an internal skeleton that I could build off of and then eventually use in the final version of the bag. So I ordered some chipboard on Amazon. I started feeling like maybe I could use some other material to block out some of the bigger shapes, like the back panel for this bag. Really just save time because it takes a while to make these panels. I'm carefully tracing the edge of the frame that I have now just so that this back panel lines up nicely. And then I slowly and very carefully cut away all the excess material, making sure not to cut off my fingers, of course. I also ended up using this material for a different part of the bag with some kind of interesting results, but we'll get there later. First, let's finish up this back panel. This is gonna be where the laptop lives. Okay, let's see if a laptop's even gonna fit in here. And now the moment of truth. Yeah, okay. It's a snug fit, but it's a fit. I'm going to need to insert some sort of padding or extra layer of material inside this side pocket, right? I don't want that laptop like banging against the hard ground every time I set the backpack down. So there's gonna need to be something, either a piece of fabric that is sewn across the bottom of that area, or perhaps a piece of foam or some sort of insert, but it's essentially there so that the laptop isn't hitting the floor every time you set the backpack down. I want to put in little indicators for where my straps are going to go, because I think what needs to happen is the straps need to be sewn into the top of this panel, in between the panel that's going to go here. They need to be sewn in on this seam. They'll come up and out, and then there will be some suspension straps that come down through here that will kind of help support everything and hold all the weight of the bag. So I'm going to put some little indicator pieces of tape here and here. I'm going to measure that out and sort of figure out where my straps need to go. Those indicators are super important. Like I said, those straps will need to be figured out, and that will probably be a whole episode in itself. The design of the straps and the sort of the science behind the weight distribution and all that sort of stuff will have to be figured out and worked through in a later episode, so make sure to subscribe for that. But right now, we're just gonna put in some indicators to make sure we don't forget to leave spots for us to sew in those straps. Ooh, okay, we're back. We home. We home from work, and now we ready to start working on a backpack. Here we are. Oh yeah, check it out. Okay, so off camera, check this out. I started trying to make a better kind of little brain. It's not gonna be this big though on the final piece. This is just a miniature version, but yeah, I kind of started trying to figure out how this is supposed to go together and form, but it's pretty tricky, so jumping back into that tonight and gonna try to make some progress on it. All right, so this brain part of the bag obviously has so many features packed into it. We have a main big pocket, kind of like a catch-all pocket that can carry all sorts of stuff. There's supposed to be the glasses holder in this part of the bag, and it's supposed to obviously act as a cover for the main compartment of the bag. I first started trying to make it out of tape, and I had multiple iterations there. Then I kind of scaled back and went back to sketching to try to rework the idea a little bit and make miniature versions out of paper that I can quickly fold up and kind of see how these forms were supposed to take shape and really understand this silhouette that I was trying to go for. This is where that chipboard comes back into play as well. I thought maybe I could switch up the materials and try to use that chipboard to block out some of these shapes and some of these panels, but this was so much more complicated than I thought it was going to be. Alrighty, just making the final touches on that. All that's left to do is put it on top of the bag and see how we like it. A little cardboard sort of shape here. We'll see if this is kind of working. I just don't know how this is gonna translate into fabric. I don't really even like the shape of it. What the heck? How does this work? Oh my god, this is so hard. This is like, what the heck? Never done this before. How do you do this? Maybe it's just a matter of like rounding up some of these edges. And the cardboard isn't really an accurate representation of how fabric works, so that's another thing to keep in mind. Like, this is just stiff, you know, like it only is bending in one direction, whereas fabric obviously bends in multiple directions. The cardboard just doesn't really do that. So I moved away from the chipboard, back to tape, and really just tried to focus on cutting good, solid panels. That's so important in sewing. Your panel is everything. If it's not cut nicely and it's not measured appropriately, it's never gonna be good. You know, it's never gonna come out how you imagine it. And so I resorted back to that. I sat down and I really tried to cut out nice shapes that I thought would work well. I really tried to understand how these things would fold together and form the overall silhouette that I was going for. Thinking hard, sketching over and over, multiple iterations. No matter what I tried, I just could not get this part of the bag to look how I thought it should look. I could not get it to look how I imagined. And I tried for days, multiple sessions over multiple days. All right, well, As of right now, I'm having trouble getting this out of my head, so I think we're gonna call it there. And so I went to bed defeated. Told myself I'll try again tomorrow. Sometimes that's all you can do. I'm honestly feeling a bit discouraged. There's something about this that's not really working. It's not really coming out how I want it to, and I'm having a really hard time understanding how this is supposed to work in 3D space. I cut out the cardboard thing, this piece. There still is this like weird shape that's going on that I don't love. I don't really know how to get rid of it. Okay, I'll show you. This is it. Check it out. I almost want it to just like follow this line here and like doesn't have that crazy 1997 Godzilla looking thing. Now this part's kind of cool. You could see this is a zipper opening, so that'll be zipped shut. This has like, I can sort of draw the general shape of what I want this thing to be, but I'm having such a hard time actually like bringing it into the real world. So I don't know, I think I need to just switch up the medium. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to cut some old fabric up and see if I can just like, you know, I don't know, I just need to feel something different, I think. Okay, I didn't film it, but I put together this little like doily thing. How's the light? Is it bad lighting? Yeah, it's bad lighting. This is stupid. It didn't work anyway. It doesn't matter. It was bad, but it did make me kind of realize something, that potentially maybe one of my shapes is off a little bit. And I think I'm gonna try to sew the tape. Is that crazy? Is that gonna ruin my sewing machine? I really hope not. It's gonna like gunk it up, get it all like sticky with shit. I hope that doesn't happen, but what the heck? I think that's what I need to do. The patterning needs to be good, or as good as it can be, and then I can sew the tape together. Let's give that a try. I think I'm gonna try to sew tape. That sounds crazy, but I'm gonna try it. I think it'll be okay. We'll try it. And so I cut out some new panels and took the tape to the sewing machine. I honestly did not know if this was gonna work. I went into this super apprehensive, and I pretty much had no hope that this was gonna work. I was desperate. So I sewed this zipper onto this panel and then onto the bigger part of the bag. I think I should have done this from the beginning. I just freaking sewed tape like it was fabric. How? Did anybody know you could do that? Because that's crazy. Look, I sewed a zipper onto my tape backpack. I'll show you what's underneath there. Not too bad, eh? Pretty good stitches. Pretty straight. Okay, but look we learned so much from this. That was kind of the trouble, was that there was like no real, like taping the tape together wasn't really giving me a good idea as to like what the fabric was gonna do. And so, that's interesting. So I think what I'm gonna do is make the panels out of tape. And now you might be wondering like, okay, well, why make them out of tape? Because the fabric is more expensive than tape. And if I ruin tape, it's fine. Like, I don't care if I punch a bunch of holes in tape, or, you know, sew something together with tape and then have to rip it apart. Like, that's fine. Thread is cheap, tape is cheap, fabric not so much. And if I have to take fabric apart multiple times, I run the risk of ripping the fabric, and then it's useless basically, and I don't want to waste good fabric. So tape still is a good option as as a preliminary material. Like, I think tape is actually a pretty good option. It's really easy to like add to it. So if I cut a strip too short, I could just tape more tape onto the end of the tape, and then, you know, probably if my dad saw me doing this with tape, dude, he would lose his mind. Sure. It's like, as a kid, I used to always like steal his tape, like nice expensive electrical tape, you know, duct tape, all kinds of tape, and I would like make stuff out of it, like toy guns and stuff. And he always hated it because he was like, dude, that's such a waste of tape. Like, what are you doing? Like, and then he goes to use it, I'm sure, one day. You know, he didn't know I took it. And it's all gone. And he's like, where's all my tape? And it's like, oh, Jason used it to make a goddamn booby trap in his bedroom for no one. No one's gonna go in there. No one wants to go in there. It's disgusting in there. And so here we are. This is where we've made it. And I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with this. This is great progress. It's not exactly what I want it to be yet, but it's a step in the right direction. And that's super exciting. Okay, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to continue following along on this journey as I build this tape backpack, soon to be one day a real backpack. Yeah, I really appreciate you watching. If you have any tips, also, I'd love to hear tips. If you have any ideas, or tips on how to construct stuff like this, leave them in the comments. I'd love to know any input or hear any input you guys might have about, yeah, just what I'm doing completely wrong, or you know, maybe I'm missing something that someone else out there already knows. So leave it in the comments. That'd be awesome. Again, if you enjoyed this and you want to keep following along as I build this, then subscribe. And other than that, I will see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.